Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty interesting. This Deferred Entry of Judgment program.
DEJ.
DEJ, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically this program in Orange County, California that gives, like, first-time offenders a chance to,
Kind of get a do-over, yeah.
do-over, avoid having a conviction on their record.
Right.
And we're specifically looking at petty theft cases.
Right, so like shoplifting, those kind of things.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it seems like a pretty big deal for people who, maybe made a mistake and...
One bad decision and don't want that following them forever.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So first off, like, who can even qualify for this DEJ thing?
Well, the big thing is you got to have a clean slate when it comes to theft, right? Like no prior theft convictions.
Okay, so it really is for first-timers.
Yeah, it's like that first-time opportunity, that second chance.
Gotcha. But here's what I don't get. To get into the program, you have to plead guilty. Like, how does that even work?
It's a little, it's kind of unique. You plead guilty, but the court kind of like hits the pause button on actually making it official,
Oh, so they don't actually...
So it's like, we hear ya, but...
Enter the judgment.
Yeah. They're holding off giving you a chance to, like, prove yourself, basically.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
So what do you actually have to do in this program? What are the, like, requirements?
So there are a few pieces to it. First, there's this theft education class.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just like, sitting there listening to someone drone on, though.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the impact of theft, like the ripple effects it has on people.
So it's like getting some perspective.
Exactly. Then there's community service, putting in some work for a good cause.
Right, giving back.
Yep, kind of like repairing some of that harm that was done.
Makes sense.
And then there's restitution, making things right financially with whoever was affected.
Right, got to pay for those stolen Snickers, right?
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And then you got to stay out of trouble while you're in the program, obviously.
Oh, no more Snickers.
No more Snickers, yeah. Oh, and one more thing. Got to give a DNA sample.
Yeah, that one, I imagine, raises some eyebrows.
For sure. We'll get into that a little later.
Yeah. Okay, so you do all that. Then what? What happens after the program?
Well, there are basically two paths. If you do everything right, the court dismisses the charges.
Wow, so it's like it never even happened.
Pretty much, yeah. Clean slate.
That's a pretty amazing incentive.
It is, but there's also the flip side. If you don't follow through and don't complete the program, then that guilty plea, it gets activated, basically.
So you end up with a conviction.
Exactly. So the stakes are pretty high.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so, like, backing up a bit, why even have this DEJ program in the first place?
Well, it's really about rehabilitation, recognizing that people make mistakes and sometimes they just need a chance to get back on track.
So it's not just about punishing people.
No, it's about trying to break that cycle of bad decisions, reducing that recidivism rate,
So, like, giving people the tools and support they need to turn things around.
Yeah, and become productive members of society, contribute in a positive way.
That's really interesting. Okay, so let's circle back to that DNA sample thing.
Right, the elephant in the room.
Yeah, why is that even a requirement?
So it's basically about feeding this big old DNA database that they use for criminal investigations.
It's like a giant puzzle. Every sample's a piece.
Exactly. And those pieces can help solve all sorts of crimes, even ones totally unrelated to the original offense.
So it's not like they're specifically targeting DEJ participants.
Nope. It all goes into this big pool of data. But, there are definitely valid concerns about privacy and how all that data is used.
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
That's a whole other discussion for sure.
Absolutely. So, big question, does this DEJ thing actually work? Like, does it actually help people?
Well, the research suggests that it can be pretty effective. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like it gives people structure, support, resources, all those things that can help them make positive changes. There's this one study that found people in a DEJ program were like 30% less likely to reoffend compared to those who went through the traditional court system.
Wow, 30%. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Shows the potential impact of these programs.
Yeah, it really shows the power of second chances, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Okay, so just to wrap things up, we've been talking about this Deferred Entry of Judgment program in Orange County, specifically for first-time offenders facing those petty theft charges.
Right.
And to be in the program, you got to plead guilty, but the court kind of holds off on making it official. And then you got to go through all these steps. The theft education class, the community service, restitution, staying out of trouble, and that DNA sample.
Yep.
And if you succeed, you get a clean slate, charges dismissed.
freedom.
But if you fail, well, then you're facing a conviction. Exactly. And we talked about how this whole program is based on the idea of rehabilitation, giving people a chance to turn things around, and how the DNA sample thing fits into the bigger picture of criminal investigations.
All those puzzle pieces.
Exactly. And most importantly, we looked at some evidence that suggests this DEJ program can actually work, can actually reduce reoffending.
Pretty amazing, right?
It really is. So I want to leave you with something to think about. What if you were in charge of designing a program like this? What would you focus on? What would you change? You know, it's a complex issue with a lot of moving parts, but it's definitely worth thinking about.
A lot to consider there.
Absolutely. And as always, remember, this is just a starting point for understanding DEJ.
Yeah. Always a good idea to consult with a lawyer for the most up-to-date info.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into deferred entry of judgment.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.